KenPom has updated his program ratings, and I'll tell you, there's one team that stands alone above the rest.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. We're your hosts. He's Andy Patton. I'm Isaac Schade, and you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. Thanks so much for making this your first listen or watch. Want to remind you that you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are here with us and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. I was just hanging out in there a little bit this morning. Good stuff. That link's in the show notes. We'd love to have you. Andy, it is Tuesday. The NBA draft is tomorrow night. For folks who might have missed it, you and I did some good NBA draft content yesterday. Little primer. Leaf Tulane is going to join me on tomorrow's show on draft day to kind of give some takes and set all that up. And then we'll have some more on that Thursday. And then Andy will do the same on Friday once it's all said and done. So that's where we're headed. Today's really probably the only day this week where we don't do any NBA draft specific stuff. So where we are headed, Andy, on Monday, yesterday, KenPom just released updated program ratings with a new algorithm that basically takes stock of his entire catalog. We'll explain more on that. Several top 25 teams or teams we expect to be top 25 this year have recently been hit with the season-long injury bug. And the NBA Finals obviously wrapped up on Sunday evening. Speaking of injury bug, yikes. And the vast majority of the scoring in those NBA Finals came from the college ranks. Kind of cool there. We'll unpack more about that as we go. All right, Andy. KenPom, program ratings. For those who are unfamiliar, KenPom has got his database now all the way back through the 1996-97 season through the present day. It's 29 seasons worth of data minus a little COVID slice of life here. And so, Andy, basically what he has, KenPom, is an algorithm where all of these different metrics, I'm not going to go into details on it right now, bring together a rating of all the teams in Division I throughout the history of the KenPom database. Pretty cool stuff. If you want to read more in depth on it, you can go find that. We don't want to explain it here. What we do want to talk about is who are the teams, a lot of them that have been at the tip top of being super consistent throughout this thing. Interestingly enough, KenPom sent out in an email on Monday. If you're not part of the KenPom newsletter family, you should do that. Great stuff from them if you're a stats nerd like we are. But he framed this as these program ratings as, quote, there is only one way you should judge these ratings, and that is based on which coaching job would the average human take if presented with two options. So basically, you're the head coach at school X, which is ranked 35th in the KenPom program ratings, and you're offered a job by the school that's 92nd, you should not go there. You probably don't want to go to, right? And so that's how he's saying you should look at it, and that's fine and well and fun. But Andy, we're here to look at what schools are awesome and don't suck. So that's what we're going to do. So I want to, first off, see if you have any takeaways, and then it's not Friday, but we're not going to be together this Friday. So I've got some Friday facts for you from KenPom program ratings. But first, what kind of, if any, takes do you have?
Yeah, I really liked the way that KenPom framed this in his kind of write-up about it. I think this is something that Ken is very good at. He doesn't write as much as I would like him to, personally, right? Ken. Yes. If you're listening and you got some time, write more, because the ability to be able to like kind of parse out the relevant information with his huge algorithm and all these numbers and all this data, like it can get easy to get bogged down and lost in it. And a lot of people who do this super regularly sometimes struggle to communicate what the data means. And I thought that the example of like, hey, this is just like where would you want to coach? What program is better set up history-wise, resource-wise, recruiting-wise? And like, instead of like bogging it down with all the details, he just kind of gives you a quick, hey, where would you rather coach type of thing. And like, there's some, like he mentioned a specific coaching change that happened, and it was like teams in the 350. So that's kind of a wash. And he was like, and you'd rather coach in Chicago at Chicago State than in Lorman, Mississippi, where Alcorn State is. And it's like, yeah, there's still, a few small things that maybe aren't going to be factored in, but for the most part, I think this is a really cool thing. And again, I love when Ken not only releases new stuff, but also gives us an opportunity to kind of read his words and his thoughts on what it means and how to interpret it, because he's been doing this for a really long time and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, man, it's so cool. That's really well said, Andy. And he is a master of getting his own data and then helping us, humans, us finite humans, understand what the numbers are telling us. So, Andy, the program ratings page is pretty cool. It's got the conglomerate ratings throughout time, a team's best finish, worst finish, when they finish top, how often they finish top 10, top 5, top 50, and what they've done in the NCAA tournament and their change since last year. So it's really cool stuff, Andy. And I want to query you on some of it, because I thought that would be a fun way to spend a little bit of time here. This feels very big, but it gives you a chance to just name off a bunch of teams. So, Andy, as I said, one of the columns KenPom has is top 50, meaning how many times has a team finished top 50 in KenPom. So there are 20, Andy, 20 programs that have been top 50 at least 20 of the 29 KenPom years. I want to see how many of those 20 programs you can name. And obviously that's a big fat number.
The big old number. Let's see what I can do. Duke.
Correct.
North Carolina.
That is also true.
Michigan State.
Yes.
UConn.
They're on there.
Gonzaga.
Yes.
Okay. First time I have to pause and think for a second. Let's see. Villanova.
Villanova, just outside the list. They have made the top 50 19 times.
Oh, come on, Jay.
I'm
blaming Jay Ryan.
You should probably blame Kyle Neptune, because if he had done it once, they would be in.
Okay, let's see.
So you've got 5 right now.
5 right now. Oh, there's still a lot left. Louisville. Ugh.
That is correct.
Louisville, as I used to say, and you told me is incorrect.
Oh man, they would.
Yeah,
the wheel up there at the Young Center. Yeah.
Kentucky.
Kentucky is very correct.
Kansas,
also correct.
Yeah, those are the obvious ones. Florida,
yes, they're in the top 10. You've named. Let me see how many of the. I don't know how many of the top 10 you named, but yes, Florida is in the top 10 of most top 50 finishes.
Virginia,
a
little less confident,
is not on the list. I'm scrolling down to see where they're at. No, they've made the top 50 14 times.
Oh wow, that's less than I would have guessed. They would be closer than that.
Same. I would have guessed same. You've got 8 of the 20. UCLA. Let's see. No, they have 18.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Why don't we get 2 more and then I'll name the other 10?
Yeah, that sounds good. Arizona.
Yes, they're in the top 10. Good job.
Nice. One more guess. Let's see. I'm going to guess them because they've been rolling around in my head, and I think the answer might actually be no, but I'm going to try it anyway. Baylor.
No, just outside. They have 17.
They were just 50. So bad in the first part of this time period.
Right. And that's the thing, is it goes all the way back to 97.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want me to keep guessing? I can keep guessing.
Yeah, do one more.
Let's see. Let's go with Texas.
Yes, very good. They are also a top 10. They have finished in the top 50 25 times.
Nice.
So a lot of the ones you got are actually the top 10 of this thing.
Yeah.
So that's really good. In fact, Andy, here, let's take that one step further. There are 2 programs that have finished top 50 all 29 KenPom seasons. How about that?
2 programs have done it every single year.
Every single year of the KenPom era, they've finished top 50 at KenPom.
I think Duke has to be one of them, right?
Duke is one of the 2. Yes.
Yeah. Second one, I am honestly, if you'd asked me this 2 years ago, I would have.
You should go with that answer.
Okay, then it's Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is Kansas.
So I was going to say Kentucky only because I was afraid Kansas wasn't there the last couple of years.
That's so Kentucky is 5th. They've finished top 50 27 times. Duke and Kansas, the only 2 schools to finish top 50 all 29 seasons. In fact, they're the only 2 to be top 40 all 29 seasons.
Wow.
And it's a big drop off after that to like Kansas's worst finish is 27, Duke's worst finish is 36th, and the third is Michigan State, whose worst finish is 64. So they're just kind of obliterating everyone else in that regard. So pretty cool stuff. Andy, let's do one more. I'll do a short one since we're already a little bit pushing against the clock here. I'll tell you, and you've got 5 options, and you can tell me which one you want to do. 8 programs have been top 25 at least 20 seasons. 1 program has been top 10 at least 20. No, let's not do that one. 12 programs. 12 programs have finished the year number 1 at KenPom at least once, and 8 programs have never finished outside the top 100.
Ooh, those are both fun.
Yeah.
Those are both fun. The first one was 12 programs have finished first.
Have finished first at least once at KenPom. Yep.
Okay, I'll do that quick. I can knock them out.
Okay.
Duke.
Hang on, stand by. Let me reorder it. Yes, Duke.
You got to have the data, yeah.
Okay,
Duke is one of them?
Yes.
Gonzaga is one of them?
Yes.
UConn's one of them?
Yes.
Kentucky's one of them?
Yes. Duke, Kentucky, UConn, Gonzaga. Good. You've got 8 more.
Kansas is one of them?
Kansas.
Villanova?
Villanova, yes.
All right. I'm just thinking of national champions mostly.
Exactly.
But, let's see. Louisville?
Louisville, yes.
All right.
In the 2014 season.
Okay, that makes sense. Michigan State?
Michigan State, yes. Most recently in their national championship season of 2000.
Wow, way back. Carolina?
Carolina, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently in the 09 championship season.
Oh, they weren't in 17 then.
Nope.
So it's 9. There's 3 more?
There are 3 more.
Virginia?
Virginia. And actually most recently in their championship season of
that makes sense.
19. Yep.
Florida.
Florida, yes. Most recently, though, 06. It was Duke that finished number 1 this year.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So that means there's 1 left?
1 left. Florida.
And I haven't got any of them wrong? Crap.
You haven't gotten anything wrong. UConn, Villanova. I'm looking to see who it is. Oh, yes. I see who it is. Good grief. You want me to give it to you? I don't think you would think that it was.
Well, I was going to guess one of these 3 was, well, actually, never mind. I already guessed them. I was going to guess either Arizona or Baylor. I assume it's not either of them.
Neither of those are correct. Nope. They
Cincinnati.
have not Cincinnati. That's a great guess. Arizona and Baylor, both best finish is 2nd.
Oh, damn. Very close.
The answer is Ohio State. How about that? Ohio State finishing number 1 in 2011, Andy.
Yeah, was not going to get there. That was fun, though, Isaac. Those are fun things. Shout out Ken. Shout out KenPom. Just all the good data, all the good breakdowns. We always love it, so we appreciate having some fun, goofy stuff like this to talk about. Check it out, folks, if you have not done so yet. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about injuries. Unfortunately, while we're going to talk about this more in the final segment, we're gutted for Tyrese Halliburton. But he's not the only Iowa State Cyclone who's going to miss some serious time on the court. We're going to talk about that coming up in just a second. But first, folks, the summer sports, they're in full swing. Whether you're all about the baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And if you're already following the action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned out on the beach. You can use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with daily promotions and fun new ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. So whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right out into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. World Series odds are out right now. The Dodgers out of LA plus 220, followed by the Yankees at plus 600, followed by my Detroit Tigers. Shout out Motor City plus 850 for the Tigers. And if you're new to FanDuel, folks, new customers can bet just $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, folks, moving on from our conversation about Ken Pomeroy's awesome new program ratings to instead talk about some injury updates across the college basketball landscape. And it's kind of fortuitous timing in some ways. It was very difficult for those of us, and we are going to talk more about the NBA Finals to close out the show. But if you were watching it on Sunday night, first Game 7 in 9 years, just this incredibly exciting, buzzing moment for the basketball world. And it was really unfortunate to see Tyrese Halliburton, one of the best players on the planet, go down with that Achilles injury. If anybody out there was watching it, you, like me and like Isaac, probably knew pretty much immediately what happened. It was really kind of hard to watch. And unfortunately, Indiana unable to kind of come back. Shout out to the Thunder. Congrats to them. Nothing against them, but it's hard to not see it happen with the best players on the floor. But it does tie into the fact that there have been a handful of injuries just in the last week or so that are going to impact some serious high-level college basketball programs. And one of them is, in fact, Iowa State, where, of course, Tyrese Halliburton played his college basketball. But we're actually going to start talking about a transfer from Michigan State, transfer to Michigan State, I should say, Caleb Glenn from Florida Atlantic, who suffered a torn patellar tendon. Yeah. He's going to miss the whole year. He's going to be out for the entire season. Really good player last year for the Owls. Averaged about 12.5 points, 5 boards, shot 41% from 3, and that was on like 3.5 attempts per game. He would have been a big time player for Tom Izzo. And as we know, Izzo's not a coach who really utilizes the transfer portal all that much. So when he goes out and gets a guy, it's because he really likes him. It's because he's done his diligence. He views him as a player that can really contribute. I think the general consensus is that he was probably going to back up Cohen Carr at the 3, but he could play a little 2. He could kind of have some versatility. This is a tough loss for Tom Izzo and the Spartans, and just gutted for this kid to get that opportunity to go play at Michigan State, and now is going to have to miss an entire year.
Yeah. Similarly, we had another one that was an incoming transfer, Andy. Mason Williams transferring to Iowa State from Eastern Washington, where he had played 2 years, almost said 12 years. Boy,
not quite. He got a whole year yet in college.
A lot of red shirts, a lot of COVID eligibility. Andy Mason is a 6'5" guard. 13.9 points last year at Eastern Washington, a career 37% shooter from beyond the arc, career 84.5% shooter from the free throw line. And it's just tough, right? Like, was going to be able to come into Iowa State and provide some really, really strong shooting. Had hip surgery last week. It was successful, a pre-existing condition, Andy. So I guess he wouldn't have been covered under whatever health insurance. No. And so nothing he suffered while he's been at Ames, but just something they needed to get done and taken care of. The official verbiage from Ohio State, good grief, I'm going back to segment 1, from Iowa State, is that he is likely to miss the 25-26 season. And if so, obviously you would expect him to be able to easily get a red shirt and be able to have 2 years of eligibility left. Similar to what you were just saying, Andy, about Caleb Glenn, I don't think that he would have started. You've got Taman Lipsy, you've got Nate Heisey in the backcourt, you've got Momcilovic out on the wing, Jefferson at the 4, or flip-flop those guys, whatever you want to do. Probably Blake Buchanan at the 5. But it is a big depth loss for Iowa State, man. You just think about the shooting that could bring off the bench, man. That would be huge. Again, I do think he would push for a starting role, kind of similar to Glenn. But again, another blow to a top 25 team's depth. We'll see how it affects the Cyclones.
Next up is going back to the Big Ten. We talked about Caleb Glenn from Michigan State. I want to talk about an Illinois player, Ty Rodgers, out indefinitely is how it was listed for Illinois with a knee injury. He already redshirted last year. So this is still a loss in the sense that they were expecting to have him back. They were expecting to have him in the mix, but they played last year without him. The previous year, he played a significant amount, not a high-level score, about 6 points, but he averaged about 5 boards and 2 assists. He's just kind of a glue guy, a veteran guy who's a good defender, high IQ player. Again, not much of a scorer, but he provides depth, veteran stability for an Illinois team that's got a lot of newcomers, a lot of new players coming in, and now they're not going to have this kind of stabilizing presence on the wing for Coach Underwood's team, and they're going to have to be more reliant on the itches, on Andrei Stojakovic, on David Mirkovic, who's coming in as well, Mihajlo Petrovic. They have literally multiple ICs coming in to this team, and I know Coach Underwood was planning to use those guys a lot, but I think Rodgers was a player that they were really hoping would kind of provide some of that veteran, presence that I think the teams really rely on, especially in the transfer portal era, and a team like that had so much turnover. So this is a tough bummer for this team. Again, out indefinitely is fairly vague, but coming off of a fully missed season, it wouldn't be a surprise if this ends up being a situation where we're not really sure when or even if we're going to see him back on the floor. Obviously, we hope that's not the case for him, but a tough situation for Coach Underwood, for Ty Rodgers and the Illini.
Yeah. Andy, I'm 41 years old. It's probably just been in the last 5 years of my life that I finally figured out what indefinitely means. Like I used to think like that meant like it's done, not coming back or whatever. Like finally, then I was like, oh, it just means we don't know. Okay.
Right. It's a confusing way to say we don't know.
Yeah. Like it was a earth shattering day when I finally realized that just meant we don't know, because it could be like 1 game suspension like Grayson Allen for tripping people, or it could be indefinitely and he ends up retiring, because whatever. Well, Andy, let's end this bummer of a segment with some happy news. On Monday, we learned that Latrell Ritzel has been indeed granted a 6th year of eligibility, going to return to Alabama. Andy, I think we would have probably both said we expected this to happen to get that medical red shirt from last year. But gosh, with the NCAA, you just don't know sometimes. And so until you actually hear it, you can't say with any certainty. So torn Achilles last November. The expectation out of Tuscaloosa is that he's going to be ready to go to start the season. It was funny, Andy, we were talking pre-show. We both felt like Ritzel played more last season than he actually did. With Chris Youngblood being out and coming back, we thought he didn't play as much as he did. And so that's good. But it's tough for Ritzel, man. He had missed the NCAA tournament with head injuries 2 years ago, and then this Achilles last year. In his 8 games, 11.5 points, 2 assists, 42.2% from 3. And that's, man, you think about somebody that can do that with Nate Oates. And if they could get a whole season out of him, that would be really, really great. They've got a loaded backcourt with Ritzel, LeBaron Filan, obviously his late minute decision to come back to school, which, Andy, since we talked about it and you were like, I missed it, whatever. I heard Matt Norlander saying he did the exact same thing.
Really?
So there you go. Aiden Holloway, Houston Millette, all coming back. Jaleel Bethea coming in from Miami, going to be a sophomore, had a lot of hype coming into last year and it just didn't live up to it. And then Davion Hanna, a 4-star incoming freshman. So Nate Oates probably going to spread it out and let dudes run and chuck. Well, shocking that'll be the case. Andy, the NBA Finals did wrap up on Sunday night because that's what happens when you have a Game 7. And over 97% of the points in the NBA Finals were scored by college basketball players. But shockingly, few of those points came from the blue blood ranks. We'll talk about all that coming up in just a second. Andy, you had done some investigatory journalism, to use a Derek Zoolander phrase, and kind of realized like you were just doing some research on it. And I love this because sometimes we do research to try to prove our points. So sometimes we do it just because we're curious. And it's like, oh, wow, look at what that revealed. And you were doing some digging on various things with the NBA Finals. And I think you came to some pretty interesting discoveries. Would you share that with us?
Yeah, so I broke down and I just did it with points. So obviously we're not looking at rebounds, assists, any other statistical kind of categories. But
Andy, come on, do better.
If you knew how long this took me, Isaac, you would be it was a process. A lot of refreshing basketball reference. So what I did is I broke up where all the points in the NBA Finals came from by individual schools and by conferences. And part of what I was doing was trying to see basically the 3 players from the WCC, which is Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, and then Chet Holmgren and Andrew Nembhard from Gonzaga. Did the 3 of them outscore every other conference in college basketball in the NBA Finals? And I assumed the answer would be no because of the SEC, and that is correct. The SEC had the most points, but there were some really interesting things that came out of this kind of conversation and this look at where the points came from in terms of college basketball versus international, in terms of high major versus mid major, in terms of, blue bloods versus not blue bloods. Like some of this was very unexpected and some kind of fun data to look through. So like we said, the SEC was the conference with the most points, 425 total points. Interestingly, almost split exactly in half. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 212 points. Every other SEC player in the NBA Finals, which was Alex Caruso, Aaron Nesmith, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, and Jalen Williams, all of those guys combined to score 213 points. So pretty much right down the center for that. And then the WCC was second, but some other fun things. Isaac, the Pac-12. Remember the Pac-12? It's coming back, but it was not around very recently. And yet still, because Ben Mathurin played at Arizona, TJ McConnell played at Arizona, Lou Dort played at Arizona State, the Pac-12 was third with 228 points, about 15% of all of the points scored. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are some pretty unique things that kind of came out of this. And I think the key one that I know you wanted to kind of talk about, because I think it is compelling when talking about kind of college basketball's where it's at in terms of developing NBA talent, only 2.7% of the points scored in the NBA finals, 42 of the over 1,500 points scored, were scored by international players. That'd be Isaiah Hartenstein and Ousmane Dieng were the only two players who were international who scored points, 42 total points. That to me is interesting. And obviously, if we'd had a finals with, the Lakers or with Denver in the championship, that would look very, very different. But we don't. And so we get a situation where 97% of the points scored came from the college ranks. And I feel like that, even if it's maybe just like a one-off thing, is a good thing for the sport going forward.
Yeah, it would be an interesting thing to track longer, Andy. So we did have a bigger sample size of it. Because like you said, it's going to be variable based on what teams are in the finals and who those teams' best scorers are, right? Like all of those are X factors in it. But I think it is a moment for us to be able to celebrate college basketball, right? We see with NIL, with the portal, guys deciding to stay around before heading off to the NBA ranks. They're more ready to go in and play and do things like that. Another factor, Andy, I thought about as well is because of NIL, we're seeing more international players, and good grief, an onslaught of them this offseason, be willing to come over and play in college before heading to the NBA, right? Like I feel like this offseason in particular, we've seen a lot of that. And so some of these guys that would have otherwise been international will now probably be deemed collegiate because they've decided to come over and play, like a Johnny Furphy, for an example. Could have just...
Furphy's the only one on this list that I think fits in that category, but he does. Absolutely.
Yeah. And how, I know he didn't have many points in this thing, but still there's a thing to that. And also interestingly, because we're on the eve of the NBA draft, when we expect to see a vast number of like the lottery in particular, and most of the first round be guys that were in NCAA basketball last year. That hadn't necessarily been the case. I think back 2 drafts ago, I think it was, where there was like an all-time low of college guys drafted. And that was because of OTE. That was because of Ignite. That was because of New Zealand, all of that. And now college has like natural selectioned G League Ignite out of this thing, right? And so I just think we're seeing a nice trend in college's favor, and small sample size or randomness or whatever, it's not a bad thing for college to see this happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at this upcoming draft, I mean, like the only lottery picks that are projected outside of college basketball is Noah SNG from France, and I think like some people have Nolan Traore going kind of high, or Ben Saraf or Hugo Gonzalez, but like most of those guys aren't considered lottery picks. And yet some of the guys who might go in the lottery or in the first round would have been international guys, Kasparis Yakichonis, Igor Demin. Like those are, 2 obvious, VJ Edgecombe potentially, like, and those guys decided to come play in college instead. And I think you are going to continue to see that. But like 2 of the things that I really wanted to point out here that totally, like if Indiana hadn't done what they did, like this data would be completely different. But like 0 points from Duke. 0 points from Duke in the NBA Finals. Now, obviously, if Jason Tatum doesn't get hurt, Boston makes the championship, then it's a completely different conversation. And likewise, this one really stood out to me because the team that I think was most likely to, once Boston went down, it was the Knicks and the Pacers. And most thought the Knicks were going to win. If the Knicks had won, this stat would very clearly not be true, Isaac. But there's not a single point from the entire Big East. Not a single school in the Big East had somebody score a point in the NBA Finals this year. That is incredibly odd to me. But again, if it had been New York, basically all their points come from Villanova players, so the conversation would be completely different. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, maybe you take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but it's still kind of fun pulling this data. You look at no points from Duke, no points from UConn, no points from Baylor, no points from UCLA, 2 points from Kansas, which was Johnny Furphy, 9 points from North Carolina, which was Tony Bradley. Like these kind of like traditionally powerhouse basketball programs Louisville didn't have any. Like there just wasn't a lot of that presence. And it was like SEC, obviously Kentucky had the most because of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but also Cason Wallace. But Arizona had the second most. Gonzaga had the third most. Santa Clara had the fourth most, literally just because of Jalen Williams and his 40 burger that he dropped. And then next is New Mexico State for the same reason. It's Pascal Siakam. But still, it's kind of fun to see, like, how many people would have thought that Santa Clara, New Mexico State, Dayton, Vandy, like, would be on this list of Arizona State, of some of the highest performing programs. And it's just kind of a fun thing to look at what was a unique NBA finals, just with regards to it's specifically Indiana being in the finals, but it just kind of made for some fun evaluation of looking at how these points were distributed.
Yeah, man. Andy, thanks so much for doing that research. That's so fun. By the way, folks, if you weren't tracking with that Big East Knicks reference, we've got 3 different Villanova Wildcats: Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Tyler Kolek is on that. Andy, who's do what?
A good call on Kolek,
yeah. But you know who's not on that Knicks roster that has a visor from a commercial?
Dante DiVincenzo.
Have you seen that commercial?
Yes, I have. It's a great one.
It's so good, man. So good. Folks, just go Google that if you don't know what we're talking about. It's pretty funny. Andy, love this. Really interested to see, again, as we start round 1 of the NBA draft tomorrow night, what happens. I mean, there is a real world where like 27 of the 31st round picks are all college dudes. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to celebrate that hard if that happens. So
me too. I'm excited to break that down. I know you and Leaf are going to break down some draft stuff. You'll have something on Thursday, and then on Friday, I'm hoping to do some draft stuff as well. We might take a look at where did all these players come from? How much of the second round was seniors or guys out of college? How many were dart throw international guys? I think it's going to be fun to break that down, especially after kind of taking a look here at this college basketball data in the NBA Finals. But folks, that is going to wrap it up for us today here on the show. Like we said, we're going to have a lot more draft conversations over the next couple of days. As we get into July, we'll start talking about some conference realignment stuff, as we're going to start to see some of that stuff get solidified, especially with the new look Pac-12. We'll get all that going. We'll start doing our team previews, our conference previews, and all that stuff as well. It's going to be a fun off season here, continuing on Locked On College Basketball. So thank all of you for making this show your first listener watch of the day. As always, we want to say apologies to the lawyer family. We talked Purdue it all today. Let's go Wild Pokes. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. And until next time, peace out.